Welcome back, everybody. Today I have 8 evening fragrances for you. These are fragrances that I reach for over and over and over again for sort of more formal events, whether that be evening formal or daytime formal. I will say there's one in the list that is still in a sample. I haven't yet pulled the trigger on a full bottle, but I'm contemplating it. All right, well, let's just get into the list, shall we? So the first 3 that I'm going to talk about are ones that, for myself, I would typically wear these more in the daytime for formal daytime events, weddings, graduations, birthday celebrations, whatever. Although I certainly would wear these at nighttime as well, but personally I tend to just gravitate towards these ones for the daytime. The first one is actually a designer scent, and I'm just getting the dust off it. I have to be really careful doing this because yesterday, I'm so devastated. Yesterday I was picking out a bottle from my collection to wear as my scent of the day, and it had a bit of dust on it. So I went to rub it on my clothing and the lid got caught in my clothing and the bottle flew out of my hand and it smashed all over the floor. And it was Ormond Jane Tiare, and I'm so upset because you can't get that one anymore. And it was a full 120ml bottle as well. Anyway, so this one is Le Parfum by Elie Saab. I haven't worn this in a really long time. This is my second bottle of this. I originally discovered this perfume, I think back in 2013 when I went to Paris for 3 days. I bought this in the airport on the way to Paris. I bought a little 50ml bottle. This is 100ml, I think, or 75. I don't know what, 90? I think these might come in 90ml bottles. Anyway, so I bought this. I wore it in Paris the entire trip that I was there. It wasn't the first trip I've ever done solo. I had done overseas trips solo before, but I had never been to Europe before. And yeah, it was just, to me, it was a very grown-up moment. I had a new job. I thought I was going places, and physically I was going to Paris, but yeah, I wore this all through Paris. So this has a special scent memory for me. I'm taken back to Paris every time I smell it. This is an orange blossom fragrance. It's quite a crisp fragrance. I would argue even a little bit sharp at times, which is why I don't wear it that much anymore, because I find, particularly now that I live in Queensland, which is a lot hotter than where I used to live, I find that I can't really wear it here that much because it's generally too hot here all the time, and it goes a little bit sour on my skin in the heat. But if it's just a daytime event or an evening formal event, it usually wears really well on me. I like this because it smells very perfumey. Even for daytime events, okay, weddings might be outside, they might be a little bit warm. I probably wouldn't wear this in that scenario, but most of the time, if you're going to a formal daytime event, it's usually in comfort. There's usually air conditioning and stuff like that, so you're not getting too hot, which is why I feel like I can wear this to a daytime formal event. And it does feel like a very dressed up formal perfume. And it smells like someone who has their ish together, It's, and again, partly why I have that association with this fragrance is because of my mindset and where I was at when I first discovered this perfume and started wearing it. So anyway, that is Elie Saab Le Parfum. So the next one is Rose Barbare or Rose Barbare by Guerlain. This is from their Arts and Materials line. They don't come in these bottles anymore, obviously. This was not a love at first sniff for me. I had to grow into this fragrance. This is an aldehydic rose, but it's not aldehydic like your Chanel No. 5. It's quite a sweet aldehydic fragrance. There's also something in there, I think it has honey in it, and you definitely get that honeyed vibe from it. It's also got a note of fenugreek in there, which is subtle, but I think I can detect it. And then in the base, there's a bit of patchouli, and it's also quite woody. So the dry down is really beautiful on this. You get that lovely honeyed rose, The aldehydes aren't too bright or too in your face. They're quite subtle as well, actually. And then, you know, you ultimately end up with this really lovely, very smooth, semi-sweet rose on a woody base. And it's actually quite addictive to smell, and it's quite unique. I don't think I've ever smelled anything quite like this at all. And Matt is the one who actually kind of brought this to my attention. I'd spritzed it on in store one day. I think it might have been about the third or fourth time that I'd spritzed it on in an attempt to try it. And he's the one who sort of went, oh, what's that you're wearing? And I had to think about it. I'm going, oh, what is that? And then I went, oh yeah, that's Rose Barbare or Rose Barbare. And ever since then, I was absolutely enthralled with it. So I went and picked up a bottle. I do get quite a bit of the patchouli in the base, which I think elevates it into a little bit more of a formal smelling fragrance, particularly in combination with those aldehydes, which again are not so big in this fragrance that they overtake it, but they're definitely there. So yeah, I find it to be quite a formal fragrance. I don't think this is something that I would wear to work, for instance, at least not for everyday workwear, but I definitely would wear it to an event or a wedding or something like that. It's pretty but sophisticated. And then finally, of sort of the more daytimey ones is French Leather by Memo Paris. I remember when I first smelled this, it was during 2020, and I just remember thinking, I absolutely love this fragrance, but do I want to buy a bottle of it? Because when am I ever going to get to go out ever again? And that's not just because of the world events that were happening at the time. We also got our puppy in 2020. She has proven to put quite a damper on our social life because she doesn't really let us go out very much because she doesn't like being left at home alone. But this is a really lovely rose and leather fragrance. I need to find a strip. Found one. I never put them back in the same place. I don't know why. I don't know what it is with me and blotter strips, but I never put them back where I'm meant to. So this, haven't worn it for a while. I went through a phase sort of last year or the year before, just going nuts over it. Kind of smells a bit weird to me today, actually. Probably because I've got so many other smells going on in here, particularly with that spilled perfume bottle, which I can still smell very strongly from yesterday. So this opens to me quite green, but it doesn't feel like the greenness is coming from necessarily the rose. It doesn't feel like a green rose. It feels like a bit of a green leather with a rose over the top of it. The leather isn't too dark. I mean, these Memo Paris fragrances, some of the leathers that they do are really, really punchy. This one is not like that. This one is more buttery. It smells like the lovely light camel colored leather that you get in a brand new handbag. That's what it smells like. Brand new. Or brand new shoes even, before somebody's put their sweaty foot in it. Yeah, just that really lovely, clean, buttery, leathery smell that's really soft. It smells very rich and opulent without being dark. And then you've got this lovely slight greenness, which gives it freshness and rose. I don't know what the notes are. It's been a long time since I've looked at the note listing for this, but I really like this a lot. This is it's very expensive smelling. I hate saying that's like one of my most hated descriptions of fragrances, but it's relevant, right? I mean, people want to smell like really good quality, and I guess that equates to kind of smelling expensive. I don't go out of my way to smell like I've got lots of money, but I do want to smell elevated and like I choose quality over quantity, which historically has not always been the case, but I'm learning. I probably wouldn't necessarily wear this to a wedding, but I tend to wear this in daytime because it is a little bit lighter. It lasts all day, but there's just a feel about it that gives you a daytime, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it just gives me a daytime feel. It's not super dark, it's not super spicy, it's not really punchy, it's very soft and elegant, and yeah, I feel like it's a daytime wear for me. Next up is one that I haven't spoken about for a while. In fact, none of these I've really talked about for a little while now. Probably because I haven't been out anywhere. But this is Chergui by Serge Lutens. I feel like this one is widely loved, but it also can be a little bit polarizing sometimes. So this is meant to be a tobacco amber scent, I think. The tobacco in here is not the kind of tobacco that I get in a lot of other fragrances, where either the tobacco itself is quite sweet and it has that really cloying kind of facet about it. Or sometimes I get a lot of tobacco in fragrances that it's more like a dried tobacco and it doesn't have that kind of humidity that, you know, the traditional sort of tobacco note has. This one is somewhere in between those two. And to me, I get quite a lot of powder from this fragrance. I don't necessarily get the honey, but I do get sweetness in here. I feel like I get, I guess, that smoothness that honey can give, the texture of it, without necessarily sort of pointing at it and going, oh, that's a honey note. I feel like in here, the honey note is more of a texture thing than a note thing. I think this is quite unisex, but the opening probably does lean a little bit masculine, and I know that's why a lot of women don't feel like they can wear this one because they do find it to be too masculine. I get that. I think in the dry down it's quite squarely unisex, but I do get how the opening can maybe lean more to the masculine end of the spectrum. Having said that, I love the juxtaposition of wearing this with a really nice gown or dress. I just feel like it's a very special fragrance that is very formal smelling, and I cannot imagine myself wearing this outside of the context of an evening out somewhere. So that is Chergui by Serge. The next one is not easy to get hold of. In fact, for a long time I thought it had been discontinued. I don't think it's been discontinued, but I think it's an exclusive either to Saks or Harrods. I can't remember which one. This is Myrrhe Carmin by Givenchy. I have to give credit to Matt for this one. Matt bought me this bottle when he came back on one of his overseas trips back in 2019, I think. And I was so gobsmacked that he picked this, because at the time, Matt and I had been together for not very long, not even a year. And he really didn't know anything about perfume, and he certainly didn't know much about my tastes. And I was really surprised that he bought this, because this is like not a fragrance that someone who doesn't know anything about perfume would necessarily pick up, you know? So what does it smell like? So I sent a sample of this to somebody a little while back, and they said, oh, it smells like Oud Bouquet. And I went, oh no, don't say that. It does kind of remind me a little bit of Oud Bouquet now that she said that, but it doesn't smell like Oud Bouquet. It's not as sweet or cloying as Oud Bouquet. I don't think the rose is quite as prominent either. There is definitely oud in here, and there is quite a lot of myrrhe in here. So and I do get the myrrhe. It's very resinous, it's very dark. I get a feeling of dark fruits, dark spiced sort of fruits. It's beautiful. It's a lot. So I'm very sparing with the spritzes when I do wear it. Yeah, it's definitely a nighttime fragrance for me. I couldn't just wear this any old time. And I don't want to just wear it any old time anyway, because Matt bought this for me. I'm probably never going to be able to get another bottle. So I am trying to be sparing with it and wear it when I want to, but not be frivolous with it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, so that is Myrrhe Carmin by Givenchy. So next up is one, you're all going to shake your head. This is one out of all these fragrances that I've talked about today, even though I love all of them, I would say 9 times out of 10, if we're going out at night time, this is the first thing I make a beeline for. This is my going out at nighttime fragrance. It's date night, it's formal, going to the opera, it's going to the movies or something. I don't know. It's any time going out at night is when I like to wear this fragrance. This is Lyric Woman by Amouage. I know, another Amouage. Surprise, surprise. This is the older bottle. It has the old lid on it. I do have a newer bottle of this as well with the grey magnetic lid. They're very, very similar. It's just that the newer one doesn't open quite the same as this one, but they dry down practically identical. But I just prefer the opening of this one. The newer one, the opening is a bit more spicy and it's a bit sharper, whereas this one is a bit softer in the opening, and possibly because it's an older bottle and it maybe the top notes have dulled down a little bit. I can't say I don't know if it's a reformulation thing. I don't really know about how Amouage works in terms of their batches and formulations and all that sort of stuff. And quite frankly, I don't really care because most of the time they smell the same. But I did notice a difference between this one and the newer bottle that I bought first, and then this one popped up in a Facebook group. So this is more reminiscent of the sample that I had when I first fell in love with this fragrance. This to me is a dark powdery rose. There's quite a bit of cardamom in the top, so there's a bit of spice as well. It's a bit peppery. It's kind of aromatic in the opening as well, sort of green aromatic, and maybe there's some lavender as well. I do get that sort of lavendery feel to it, but that's not all that's there. Maybe that's the cardamom actually. But yeah, it's really hard to pick out any individual notes apart from you do get rose, you do get cardamom, maybe a bit of cinnamon. I feel like there's balsams in here or resins, maybe some incense. I feel like I get kind of a frankincense-y vibe, but the resin smell, not the smoky smell. Oh, there's probably a bunch of florals in here. There's probably going to be some kind of iris in here because of the powderiness. Oh, it's intoxicating, this fragrance. I absolutely adore it. And to be honest, I'm actually considering decanting some of this to take it to France with me later this year. I don't want to wear it for my wedding day, but I can just imagine, you know, us going out at night time, and we will be free to do so because we won't have a dog with us, and we'll be able to actually go out at night time. And I just want to take up all the opportunities I can to wear this fragrance in the scenarios that I like to wear this fragrance, which is going out and being out and about with people at night time. It's just so mysterious and interesting, and yeah, I really like this one. All right, so that's Lyric Woman. This next one is Halfeti by Penhaligons. I just have the travel size. This one is so weird to me. When I first smelled this, I didn't really like it, because to me the opening smells very hydrocarbon-like, and I don't know what's giving it that vibe. But yeah, it sort of smells a little bit like, not gasoline, but maybe kind of the smell of oil, like engine oil. It's got that really, I don't know, dark, sort of dull, dense, slick kind of feel to it. So it's quite aromatic in the opening, quite spicy, peppery, but yeah, it's got that sort of cooling aromatic vibe to it. The rose really starts to come forward quite quickly for me. You know, after a couple of seconds of those aromatic notes, I really start to get rose coming through. It's quite leathery. I think there is a leather accord in here. The oud is dark, or maybe it's made dark by that leather, but it's not a barnyardy in any way, shape or form. Again, it's a very clean, sort of dry, woody base. And I really enjoy this. Like I say, on paper, I hated it. But as soon as I started trying it on skin, I really, really grew to appreciate this fragrance. For some reason, I always have a memory of people talking about tobacco in this one, but I don't really get tobacco in this at all. But then maybe I'm just really bad at picking out tobacco. Maybe what I think I'm picking out is not what I'm picking out. But anyway, this is a stunning fragrance. It does smell quite elevated. It's probably a little bit more on the casual side compared to some of the others that I've talked about. But this would not be out of place in a very formal black tie setting at all whatsoever. Anyway, so that is Halfeti by Penhaligons. And then finally, are you sitting down? Because I think that I have found a Xerjoff that I like. After all of my let's call it whinging, shall we? All of my moaning and whinging about not being able to get along with very many Xerjoff fragrances. There are Xerjoff fragrances that I don't mind. I like them enough, I guess. I mean, I do own Chancoin, which I really did like when I first got it. I still like it, but it's not a huge, like, blow me out of the water love for me. But I do find that to be a very comforting scent, so I do like to wear that regardless of the fact that it's not like a mind-blowing scent for me. But the other one I really like is Neo, but that's not one that I would wear myself. I prefer Matte to wear that one. It's kind of a formal, actually that's another one that could have been in this list. It's a very formal daytime scent, I think. Anyway, I'm getting off track. This one is one that I discovered, I want to say a month or two ago. And I couldn't make up my mind about it for a really long time. Oh, it's Opera, by the way. It's Opera by Xerjoff. I didn't know anything about this fragrance when I first smelled it. And when I first smelled it, I just went, wow, that smells really weird. And the opening is kind of weird. And it was interesting because I was watching Kiki from The Honest Perfume Reviewer. I'll link her channel down below. I'll see if I can find that particular video where she talked about this. I really love Kiki's channel. She always talks with such enthusiasm about perfume, and for her, like, you can really sort of see the joy of the discovery of these fragrances for her when she's talking about them. So Kiki, I think, said that for her in the opening, she got lots of fruits with this. I did not get that. This smells so weird in the opening to me. It smells kind of like creamy wood, creamy blonde wood, like a light wood. I'm not explaining myself very well. But at the same time, I think there's ylang ylang in here, and I feel like I get that sort of almost banana-y vibe from the ylang ylang mixed with this sort of creamy woodiness, which doesn't have a huge amount of sweetness. There is a tiny bit of sweetness in there, but not a lot. And it just, what it gives off, it almost for a few seconds in that very first spritz, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Play-Doh. It's got that Play-Doh-y vibe, but that goes away, and I'm glad it does, because that is not my favorite kind of thing to smell. But then after about, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, this transforms completely. And I don't mind the opening, but the opening is not my favorite. And I remember the first night I sampled this, I put it on my skin and I went, whoa, that's really weird. Not sure I like that. Took the dog for a walk. And about, I don't know, I was getting wafts of this really amazing smell. And I had all these, there was lots of people out that night, so on the path. So I was wondering, is there somebody around me, wearing something really nice? But it was me. It was me. This transforms into something just so spectacular. I have to say, I really adore this perfume. It's really hard to describe the bit of the wear that I find so spectacular. All I can say is that that sort of Play-Doh-y, plasticky, creamy woodiness dissipates, and you get these beautiful, what I can only say are floral elements, but I don't really know what flowers are in here. I'm guessing there's probably some jasmine, maybe a bit of rose. But anyway, so I just get this beautiful, these beautiful floral elements coming through. I definitely start to get the fruits more for me in the dry down. I think there's a leatheriness to this as well, which could actually, now that I think about it, be the reason why I get that sort of creamy, sort of weird smelling wood element in the opening. It could be woods combined with leather, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe that's what it is. It smells really opulent and very formal. It's very perfumey in the dry down for me. I find, and I know that doesn't really tell you much, but it smells like a perfume. It's not gourmand. It doesn't smell like spice. It smells like something that you're meant to wear, not something that you're meant to consume. A lot of people I know really hate this, as it turns out. Some people don't like it at all, but If you're like me and you don't like a lot of the really fruity, gourmand type Xerjoff fragrances, then maybe this one is one that's worth checking out. But what I will say is put it on your skin, because this paper strip smells like the opening, and I've been talking for a good probably 10 or 15 minutes now, so this should have changed by now. But I'd say put it on your skin, be patient with it, see how you feel. Don't blind buy it. Let me know down below in the comments what you like to wear for more formal occasions, be it daytime or evening. I'm keen to know, I'm on the fence as to whether or not I want to buy this as a full bottle. Maybe if I can get my hands on a partial bottle, I will, just because like I say, I don't go out that much, and so it doesn't really make much sense to have bottles and bottles of really formal smelling fragrances when I don't live a lifestyle that enables me to wear them on a regular basis. But I do love a formal perfume, I have to say. They just put me in a really great mood. They make me feel excited that I'm doing something fun, and yeah, because I wear them usually when I'm going to be doing something that I'm looking forward to. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I feel like I've been talking for ages, so I will see you in the next one. Bye.